People who survived a school shooting, what happened? Ms. Gilman had this thing about tests, where once you started, nobody left for any reason, all because she'd caught kids texting answers from the stalls 3 years ago. So when we heard what sounded like firecrackers down the hall during our AP history exam, my hand shot up immediately. Ms. Gilman didn't even look at me, just pointed to the rule posted on her wall in bold red letters: no student leaves during testing. Ms. Gilman, those were gunshots, I said, recognizing the sound from hunting with my dad every winter since I was 12. She actually laughed, that dismissive little chuckle she did when she thought we were being dramatic, before saying, "Tyler, I've been teaching for 23 years. I know construction noise when I hear it. Now eyes on your paper." My best friend Rory was sitting next to me, his pencil frozen mid-word, and when we heard another pop pop pop, closer this time, maybe 2 hallways over, I watched the color drain from his face while Ms. Gilman calmly walked to her desk and typed something on her computer, probably emailing maintenance about the noise. The intercom crackled, but no announcement came through, just this weird static that made my skin crawl. Beth in the front row whispered, "My sister's class is in lockdown. She just texted me." But Ms. Gilman snapped her fingers at her, confiscated her phone, and said, "That's an automatic 0, Beth. You know the rules." I stood up, my metal chair scraping against the floor, and said, "We need to leave, now." But she moved between me and the door, her hands on her hips in that power stance she always did, saying, "Sit down, Tyler, or you'll be joining Beth with a 0. The pops were definitely getting closer, and I could hear something else now, running footsteps in the hallway above us. Kaylee started crying, mascara running down her face as she begged, "Please, Ms. Gilman, please, can we just hide?" But Ms. Gilman walked over to the door and did the worst thing possible. She locked it from the inside, trapping us in, saying, "Nobody is disrupting my test." That's when we heard actual human screaming from somewhere in the building, and half the class jumped up, but Ms. Gilman stood firm against the door, her face red as she shouted, "The first person who moves fails this class." And I couldn't believe this was happening, that she was more worried about test integrity than our lives. Peter grabbed my arm, whispering, "The windows, we can get out the windows." But they were those safety windows that only opened 6 inches, and we were on the 2nd floor anyway, and Ms. Gilman saw us looking and actually moved her desk chair to block the window area, saying, "Don't even think about it." The footsteps were on our floor now, heavy boots, not sneakers, and they were methodical, stopping at each door, trying handles, and my heart was pounding so hard I thought I might throw up right there on my test paper. "Please," I tried one more time, my voice cracking. "My dad was in the military. Those are gunshots. We need to follow lockdown protocol." But she laughed again, that same dismissive sound, and said, "Your dad should have taught you to respect authority then." When we heard the door handle rattle 2 classrooms down, I made the choice that probably saved 28 lives. I picked up my desk chair and threw it through the window, safety glass exploding everywhere, and screamed, "Everybody out now!" while kids stampeded past Ms. Gilman, who was shrieking about suspension and expulsion and criminal destruction of property. Peter and I literally had to drag Beth, who was frozen in fear, and we pushed people onto the lower roof of the cafeteria, helping them drop the 8 feet to the ground, while Ms. Gilman stood there with her gradebook clutched to her chest, still yelling about rules and procedures, even as we heard our classroom door handle turn behind her. The officer who interviewed me later showed me the security footage timeline on her laptop, her hand shaking as she pointed to the timestamp, and I felt my entire body go cold when I realized the shooter entered our hallway exactly 37 seconds after the last student dropped from that roof. "He had a list," she said quietly, showing me the piece of paper they'd found. "Room 237 was circled 3 times. That's your classroom." My mom grabbed my hand so tight I thought she'd break it when the agent continued. "The lockdown announcement system had been damaged in the first minute. That's why you only heard static, but your teacher had received the email alert on her computer." She showed us the screenshot, the email Ms. Gilman had minimized to keep typing her maintenance complaint, the one marked urgent, active shooter, initiate lockdown immediately. Time stamped 3 minutes before I threw the chair. Full story on channel linked below.